Welcome to McLaren's MTC, where we've just had a sneak preview of its new Formula One car, the MCL 40, that you can see in silhouette form behind us. That's all they've put out for now, but it gives you a little bit of an idea. And John Noble, they've also revealed some interesting things about their approach to testing. They're not going to be running on day one in Barcelona.
Yeah, they're doing something very different. We'd heard all pre-seasons that some teams, like Ferrari, for example, it's got its Plan A car for the first test, rapid upgrades going into Melbourne. Some teams like Audi told us they want to be there 9 o'clock on the first day of testing in Barcelona, not McLaren. They've said their plan is to run on day 2 or day 3. Going to skip that first day. They think it gives them some key advantages, more development time. They've not had to rush parts, and it gives them all they need, they think, to get fully on top of these new regs.
Well, as they've been explaining today, and we've heard from Andrea Stella, the team principal, Rob Marshall, the chief designer, and Mark Temple, the technical director of performance, they said it's nice and reassuring to get the car running early, as, say, Audi has, but you sacrifice a little bit of development time. And they're going to be running right now, in fact. They're running at AVL in Austria on the rigs there with the car. So the testing is almost, well, it has already started. It's just the car isn't actually moving anywhere. And also it's worth remembering that this test, it's a 5-day test on which you run on 3 days. So starting a bit late, if you start by day 3, you will still get the full 3 days, and that's the intention. They will do 3 days. Yeah,
the plan is whichever day they pick, whether it's day 2 or day 3, depending when they feel that it's the right time to kind of flick the button and go for it, they'll run for 3 consecutive days. They say this stage of the season, it's not about exploring performance limits. It's not about getting on top of the final emps of understanding aerodynamics. It's about understanding the car. It's about getting mileage on the car, understanding ride height sensitivities, understanding what's too low, what's too high, understanding how the power units work, how does power deployment work. It's all about maximising mileage and understanding the car, and that's going to carry through to our upgrade programme as well.
Exactly, and these cars have done huge amounts of running in all sorts of different forms of simulation, so they've built enormous amounts of data, but until you run it in the real world and see how well that correlates, you don't know what you don't know. So you could run and see there were some problems. Remember when the recent cars, the 2022 to 25 cars, first started running in Barcelona, and porpoising was a bigger problem than any of the teams anticipated. Now, there's nothing obvious like that on the horizon that could come up, but we just don't know. So there's still lots and lots of things for them to learn and details, and that's what that running has to be about.
Yeah, and I think it's about understanding the car and then knowing there's so much they don't know about how these cars work, what are the performance drivers, that they don't want to be aggressive with upgrades early on either. So some teams are looking to bring new front wings or the new barge board fences or new rear wings or new side pods, all those elements bang into the second test at Barcelona. McLaren says that's not their approach. They don't want to be putting resource, development and money into upgrades to improve the car they're not really fully on top of. So their programme in the build-up to season is understand this car, understand what its limitations are, understand where the strengths are and the weaknesses, and then build on from there. And more importantly, that gives them an advantage because it gives them a chance to see what everyone else is doing. So the Barcelona test and into Bahrain, Australia, they'll be observing. They want to see what ideas others have thought up, pick out the best ones and push on with that upgrade programme rather than throw everything in, because you could upgrade your car for Australia, put a lot of resource and money under the cost cap, find it's not the right route to go because everyone else has done something different, and you've lost yourself weeks and a lot of money. For McLaren, it's taking things very cautiously, get the most out of the package it's got early on.
Absolutely, and it's worth remembering that all of that development is still going on. So the car as it is in the wind tunnel right now should be quicker than the car that will run in testing. That's just the way things work. But you're right, particularly with the cost cap, feeding that in later on makes sense. Other than that, they've got a stable package during testing. So if you're working all of these things out, how the energy management really works, how the cars really behave, then you're not going to be confusing yourself by moving the goalposts. Now, one of the other interesting things they talked about was obviously getting to understand the performance sensitivities of the car, where you run them. They've got a pretty good idea already. But one of the things they need to do is see how the car behaves in the real world. One of the things that Rob Marshall talked about, because I was asking him about this side of things, you can see these cars are running rake. So you can see the front is lower, higher at the rear. We saw this with the previous generation of cars prior to the ground effect cars that we got rid of in 2021, so greater angle of attack. And obviously the question is, how high can you run the rear ride height to gain advantages? And one of the things Rob did say is, well, we need to work out exactly where the ride height range really is. They'll have an idea. That's one of the many things they need to work through on the car side in testing too.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of uncertainties with these regulations, not only in terms of your own performance, but how it correlates to everybody else, because it's no point you going down one route that you think's best if everyone else is doing something different that's better. So they need to pull in all that data together, experiment with the ride heights, experiment with the wing settings. They were quite interesting today, saying that the level of downforce you'll be running this year is very dependent on how much drag you can shed on the straights of active aero. So somewhere like Spa, for example, where you won't be having the straight line mode on that run down to the bus stop chicane, actually not many straights there. So you will not want to sacrifice too much, which is in complete contrast to somewhere like Monza, where it's lots and lots of straights. So all these elements need to come together. They need to see what everyone else is doing. But I think it's a very interesting time, as much for them as for us, just to see how these things pan out and develop.
Exactly, and for the drivers to get a handle on it as well. They've been doing work in the driver in loop simulator. They know what to expect. But as we see, every time cars change fundamentally like this, there are things that they need to do differently. Some they'll know before, some they'll have to work through once they're behind the wheel. So that's another aspect. So there's a lot going on, but the key is going to be the power unit side, isn't it? They've got a Mercedes power unit. We know that. Sounds like it's going to be a pretty good package. So in terms of McLaren expectations, they seem about as you'd expect them to be, wouldn't you? They're kind of assured, but in no way confident, because nobody can be confident in this phase.
Yeah, I think they've got a plan. There's some uncertainties in that plan because there's a lot to learn, but it seems very regimented and very solid in terms of what they're doing. The renders they've released overnight, just as silhouette, we've been lucky enough to see what that car's going to look like in Barcelona. There's a special black livery coming. You can see certain elements here. The side pods are more downwashed. It looked fantastic. We won't get to see it till it actually starts testing in Barcelona. I think we'll get it just before they run for the first time. But it looks good. It looks like a proper racing car. Some bits have been kept very basic and simple. They're not revealing the secrets to us. It's key design areas like the bargeboard area and the rear of the floor, very simple so far. They're going to be pushing on, but I think they seem to understand. There's no sense of panic, no sense that they're missing the first day of the test because they don't know what they're doing or they're late on anything. Everything's being structured to get the best answers. And it's the same brains, the same technical people who took them to the World Championship last year are still powering into the 26 design.
Want your F1 paddock pass for 2026? Be the first to know the inside track on F1's biggest shake-up in decades by joining the Race Members Club. It's the perfect time to check out the 7-day free trial of the Race Members Club and see the true picture of what's happening in Formula One. Come behind the scenes with us for exclusive updates, expert analysis and bonus podcasts just for you. Just head to the Members Club via the link below to claim your 7-day free trial.
Some people will think, oh, they're late, they're in trouble. All F1 teams right now are on the limit. They haven't had much time, all new cars. If you're twiddling your thumbs from December because you've done everything, then you're not going to have a very well-evolved car. So you need to be on the limit. So McLaren feels in control. And it's important, that point of all the historical advantages they have of the actual car itself. They've gone, as Rob Marshall was saying, basically everything is new because you change so many parameters on the car. There's so much stuff inside the car that most people will never see or even know are there that you just have to change because the design parameters have to change. But it's not just the people, but also the tools, the understanding, the process you go through to build a car that took McLaren to the top in Formula One is still there, which is why expectations have to be high, doubly so given they weren't exactly developing deep into 2025.
Yeah, the regulations are different, but it's still the same ultimate task. It's exploring what the rules say, it's creating ideas, it's bringing those ideas to life, it's making sure those ideas work, and then it's about getting them onto a car and making them work. All those skill sets still carry forward into the 26 regulations. It's the same team in charge, the same team that maximised the previous set of rules. There's absolutely no reason to think that just because the cars are completely different, we've lost most of the ground effect, different power unit regulations, active aero, just because those things have changed. It doesn't mean all those skills have been thrown in the bin. It's the same skill set. You're just trying to get the most out of a single set of rules.
Exactly, and also it's worth stressing how long they've been working on this. Everybody has been working on this for a long time. But Rob Marshall again was asked, when did you start on this? And he said, well, the rules kind of coalesced into something meaningful about Easter 24. So that's when they started. Aero development itself wasn't allowed to start until the start of 2025. But these cars have been in the works for a very, very long time. 20 months was in fact the number I think Andrea Stella put on it.
Yeah, I think it's been a long route to get here. And I think we're probably now at the point, even though the teams would love to have a few more weeks to finalise their designs and fully get on top of things, I think they're at the point that they now need some answers. They need to understand how these cars perform, what are the performance drivers, where are there going to be the low-hanging fruit early on to deliver performance. Because I think there will be a stage as designs come together, the best ideas get picked up upon by everybody and pushed onto cars, but we're not there yet. There could be huge variation. We've heard a lot about variation of the compression ratios on the power units, for example, but I think that's going to be one element of many, many that are going to come up early in the season, that teams diverge and eventually will settle there, but it's not happening yet.
Absolutely. The one thing we can say is the car does look great. Harder to tell in the silhouette form, but it's not going to be too much longer before everybody in the world is going to be able to see how they're doing. And McLaren, they seem to be pretty well in control.